Sunrise, the way I always had, even when there was no longer anyone waiting downstairs for coffee. The house was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet now. Not peaceful, not gentle. It felt like something had shifted beneath the surface, like the walls themselves were listening. I dressed slowly, choosing one of my husband's old sweaters, the soft gray one he wore on Sunday mornings. It still carried a faint trace of him, something familiar in a house that was becoming less so by the day. When I stepped into the hallway, I noticed the first real change. The framed photos along the wall had been rearranged. Some were missing entirely. In their place were empty spaces, faint outlines where sunlight had not touched the paint in years. I paused there longer than necessary, letting my eyes move from one gap to the next, reconstructing the memories that had been quietly removed. No one had asked. No one had mentioned it. It had simply been done. Downstairs, Vanessa was already on the phone. Her voice carried easily through the kitchen, bright and confident, as if she had been waiting for this moment her entire life. She was discussing square footage, property taxes, recent sales in the neighborhood. I could hear the faint tapping of her nails against the countertop as she spoke, a steady rhythm that matched the certainty in her tone. "It is a great opportunity," she said. "The owner is transitioning." I stepped into the kitchen just as she ended the call. For a brief second, something flickered across her face. Not guilt, not hesitation, just calculation, quickly replaced by a polite smile. "Good morning," she said, as if nothing had changed, as if everything had not already changed. I nodded and moved to the coffee maker, repeating the same motions as the day before. Routine. Always routine. Michael entered a few minutes later, his tie slightly crooked, his attention already divided between his phone and whatever conversation Vanessa had started without me. He glanced at me, offered a quick, "Morning, Mom," and then looked away before I could respond. It was not unkind. That was the part that made it worse. It was indifferent, as if I had become part of the furniture Vanessa was preparing to sell. After breakfast, Vanessa returned with another set of papers. This time, she did not sit down. Immediately, she stood across from me, holding the documents in both hands, her posture straighter, more assured. "We spoke to an agent," she said, "just to explore options." She placed the papers on the table, sliding them toward me with careful precision. "These are preliminary numbers. Nothing is final, of course. We just thought you should see them." I looked down at the pages. Estimates, projections, suggested timelines. My name appeared in several places, neatly printed, waiting for a signature that would make everything official. I traced one line with my finger, not reading the details, just acknowledging the intention behind them. Then I looked up at her and smiled faintly. "It seems like you have already thought of everything," I said. She returned the smile, but hers was sharper, edged with something she believed I could not see. "We just want what is best for you," she replied. Michael nodded beside her, his agreement quiet but present. I folded the papers carefully and set them aside. "I will need some time," I said. Not a refusal, not an acceptance, just enough to keep them moving forward, just enough to let them believe they were still in control. Vanessa inclined her head, satisfied. Michael exhaled again, that same subtle release of tension. They thought the hardest part was over. They thought I was beginning to let go. But as I stood there, looking at the two of them, I realized something even more important. They were no longer hiding their intentions. And when people stop hiding, they start making mistakes. I picked up my coffee and walked toward the window, watching the light stretch across the yard once more. Everything looked the same from a distance. Calm, undisturbed. But I knew better now, and I was still saying nothing. That afternoon, while Vanessa was busy scheduling another call and Michael had left for work, I returned to the bedroom and closed the door behind me with quiet precision. The house felt different when I was alone, not because it was empty, but because it finally stopped pretending. I walked to the closet and reached past the coats, sliding the small safe forward just enough to open it again. This time, I did not hesitate. I took out the top folder and carried it to the bed, sitting down carefully as if I were about to unfold something fragile. The papers,